Yeah, so hello and welcome to the first ever Pro Pool Inspectors webinar. We'd ask everybody during the webinar, just make sure that your camera's switched off, that your audio is muted. This will help the webinar just be the smoothest viewing quality available. And there's going to be a Q&A section at the end, the last 10 minutes of the webinar, for you to be able to get some questions answered live by our guest speaker. But just to ensure that smooth streaming and learning process, just be sure that your microphone's turned off, your camera's turned off. And don't worry, we'll be sure to get as many questions possible to our host to be answered live on the air. So this webinar was designed to give back to our clients and the pool industry as a whole. Here at Pro Pool Inspectors, it's our mission to be the definitive pool inspection company, equipping pool inspectors to have all the necessary tools and training to succeed running a pool inspection business successfully and being able to feel like they can inspect the pool and its equipment confidently. And we're aiming to help guide you along every step of your pool inspection journey, from pool inspection tools, tips and tricks, marketing and business services subscriptions, and a vast array of training and free knowledge resources to help you stay up to date with industry and safety standards. Today's webinar is going to be a deep dive into the administrative tips and tricks on how to run a pool inspection business successfully. And you can expect to learn valuable and actionable insights to help grow your business, pertinent tools we think that can help elevate your inspection process, and more. I'm your host, Matthew Dubay, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Sales here at Pro Pool Inspectors. My background is in marketing and design in the sales world, getting my start in the healthcare real estate industry. My career has taken me through a multitude of different industries with a heavy focus on brand and the power it plays in the business world. I now head the marketing and sales department for Pro Pool Inspectors, servicing a multitude of products and clients for the organization. Our guest speaker today is business owner, creator, CEO, and head ninja, Dennis Boyd. Dennis is a former medical professional with over 25 years of experience in the pool industry. His entrepreneurial spirit has taken him from opening and running a pool service company to developing the first dedicated pool inspection app on the market. Since 2015, he has owned and operated a self-sustained pool inspection company and developed training classes to help pool inspectors feel confident inspecting the pool and its equipment, in hopes of aiding in the standardization of the pool inspection industry as a whole. Today, Dennis will be discussing how to run a pool inspection business, the day-to-day ins and outs on the business side of running a successful business. And we'll be deep diving into what we have defined as an adequate pool inspection for a real estate transaction, with room at the end for a Q&A. So again, during the webinar, if you have a question, just please drop them in the link that's in the chat in the meeting room. So if you'll look down at the bottom of your screen, there is a chat option that you can click on. In that chat, there is a link at the very top. If you click that link, that will bring you to a submission box. We're able to type your question in and we'll answer it live here on the air once we get to it. And then as well, there'll be some people viewing from other areas. They'll have a chance as well to submit their questions in there as well. And if for some reason we can't get to your question live on the air, we'll be sure to contact you via email to help assist you with your particular inquiry. So just, you can expect us, no matter what, if we don't get to your question, we definitely will reach out to you in some sort of way. And you can always reach out to us as well. So getting started here in the meat of our presentation. So Dennis, advertising has played a major role in your business's success. Talk us through how marketing and advertising has changed your business and what specifics you focused on to grow awareness around who and what Pro Pool Inspectors is.
Well, marketing is such a vast word when you talk about what you can and can't do, or what you should and shouldn't do. What made Pro Pool Inspectors kind of get off the ground here locally is we're in Nashville, Tennessee. So what I initially did was like what anybody who owns a small business would do. You put your shoes on and you go knock on doors. And so in that regards, I went to real estate agents, home inspectors, things like that, and marketed our services to them and let them know I was in town, let them know that I was a professional in the pool industry, that I had years of experience and years of training in the core classes that are available to us in the industry. And not only that, but just my years of experience made me a candidate for pool inspecting. And so we wanted them to know that we were in the market. And lo and behold, it was really more or less me not even realizing that there was a need until I was asked to do a pool inspection. I had a home inspector friend who came to me and said, "Hey, can you do a pool inspection for us?" And I did. And then he said, "Hey, write it up." And I said, "On what?" And he said, "Don't y'all have something in the pool industry that lets you do reporting?" I said, "I don't know. I don't think so." But I went to look and I couldn't find anything. And so I went home and I created an Excel spreadsheet, which was, now today it's archaic in comparison to what we have. But um, I did the inspection and I took the report to him and he said, "Hey, I don't need this." He said, "Give it to the real estate agent." So I called the real estate agent and said, "Hey, I've got a report for you." And it was really a weird scenario, but I gave her the report and she said, "Hey, do you do these in the market?" And I was like, "Yeah, we can do this for you." And really, it wasn't anything more than that began my journey in the pool inspection world, because I was just trying to meet a need that I didn't know really existed. And it kind of fell on me that it was a need. And then I began to ask the people that I was connected to right there, saying, "Hey, do you guys need this done?" And the home inspector was like, "Yeah, we need this. Nobody's doing this in our world. So in the home inspection world, and I'm not going to do them. So I'll refer you also." And we had the real estate agent. She said, "Hey, well, if you'll do these, I'll send them to you from now on." And she sent me 75 my first year. So marketing can be multifaceted, meaning from, you can do advertisements, social media, things like that, or, you can go out and tell people, about yourself. And I guarantee you both will be successful where pool inspections are concerned. So, Matt, I'm not sure if that answers the question, but marketing really for me is just doing it by trial and error, and when we started marketing. Now, a lot of people in this webinar are not going to go across the United States to build a pool inspection company, but I mean, it's available, it's there, and marketing for that is like, even in and of itself, a different conversation. Like you really get involved with even more marketing products and things that are available for marketing. So yeah, marketing for you locally, for me locally, is a lot of telling everybody about you. This it's the old way of doing it, telling people that you exist, and not just hanging out your shingle, and not just putting a website together and saying that, thinking that should be sufficient, because it's really not. A website is just, it's just the first step. You got to tell others about yourself. So hope that helps, man. And
That's great. And I think, an important thing too, like that you were talking about, is I think something people mix up with the pool inspection industry, or the pool industry in general, is it's a physical industry compared to a lot of different industries. There isn't a product we can really offer in the pool industry that we don't have to show up in person on a job site, right? We can't inspect a pool without being there. We can't install a pool pump without physically showing up. We can't change somebody's, sand out in their filter without being there. And so even with marketing in the pool industry, like, you've got to be there in a physical space. And I think that's been a huge growth driver for you at Pros Pool Inspectors, is like actually showing up, shaking hands, meeting real estate agents, like having a physical presence in your area. That's just been
yeah,
a pivotal
yeah,
role.
knowing your audience is really key. Like, and I tell this to everybody. I said, when I started my pool service business and pool inspections came along, I said, I immediately noticed that there were two different audiences we were working with. We were working with people who owned houses with pools on the pool service side. And now we were getting all these people who were trying to buy a house with a pool. So I needed to figure out a way to do that kind of thing for them. And that's when we began even consulting in the company about, hey, we should probably separate these two things. So I'm sure we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But, I just, that in marketing, where we started seeing, like, our audience was home inspectors and real estate agents, not trying to call on people who already had a house with a pool, because it didn't benefit them. A pool inspection didn't benefit them. And so that's where the wheels begin to turn and say, hey, we need to think about this a little bit deeper than just as a pool service company. And the pool inspection was only a bullet point in our pool service company. So
That's good. And that, I mean, yeah, that's an important thing. And that even leads into the next thing that we're going to ask you to chat about. So growing the success of a pool inspection business is something that can take up a lot of time. And you're talking a lot about, even separating a company, things like that, right? So are there any keys administratively to aid in that success of the growth that can take up a sizable amount of time? Should somebody, combine their pool service or repair business with inspection efforts, or do you recommend maybe separating them? And then even, what are the benefits of both, and what can that look like doing that as a separate company, and then maybe even doing that as a combined company?
Well, first off, for those of you that are on this call that are pool service company owners or operators, or you may be a manager in a facility or something like that, and you want to start pool inspecting as part of the business, we've just one thing we discovered about pool inspecting is that it's been great for us because it's zero collections. With a pool service business, you have tons of collections like all the time, but with pool inspecting, the real estate agents want it, the buyers want it, the home inspectors want it, and they want it done. And with a home inspection in pretty much most states across the United States, there's kind of a time span of which all inspection protocol has to be done. And when that inspection, whether it be a home inspection, a boat inspection, whatever, it has to be done within a certain window, because you can't displace the homeowner for an indefinite period of time. So we discovered that as a pool inspectors, like, they want this information and they want it right away, and they will pay you before you even go out onto the job site. So that was kind of a new thing that we got excited about here. But when you're talking about separating two companies, really it's more like separating the mindset. I'm a pool service guy. I've been in the pool service industry for over 20 years, 25 years here in Nashville. And when we began doing pool inspections, we saw that we were being the pool service company, and then we would get the call as the pool inspector, and then we would go out and do the pool inspection, and then the real estate agent or the buyer would say, hey, can you give us a quote on these repairs? And we were seeing a real gray area, because there was an instance where a real estate agent she was a selling agent, and she said, oh, all you're doing is trying to find all these repairs so that you can fix them. And fortunately, we had enough presence of mind by that time to separate our companies, but we had begun separating it in our minds anyway. And so when we did that inspection, we said, well, quite honestly, as pool inspectors, we don't come out to do the repairs. So we just come out to do the inspection. And we had separated our company by that time from our pool service company to now what we are as pro pool inspectors. And we are able to tell the general audience, hey, if you want to do pool repair, we recommend this company. And we do have a connection with pool service, but we've come to understand that when you're doing a pool inspection, the real estate market, the buyer, the real estate agent, whoever it is connected to the deal, is looking at you like the professional that they need. And they're looking at you and saying, hey, I trust you. Most time you're the only one they know. And so they're first time pool owners, or they used to be a lifeguard and they hadn't done lifeguarding in a long time. And so they want to trust you with what's going on with the pool. And so you can get them connected. And we recommend, doing that. If you own a pool service company, being that go-between for them, and kind of transitioning them from the pool inspector to the pool service company. And fortunately, right now in the United States, there's no law that says, the pool service company can't be the pool inspection company. There are some things going on out there in the United States that they're requiring certifications and licensure on, just in different parts. Mostly it's certifications right now, but not a lot, And so what we did was we transitioned in our mind, because we saw pool inspecting as a process to being first in line for pool service. And then when we kind of went a little bit further beyond, we realized that pool inspecting can be a company in and of itself, because it just sets itself up in such a beautiful way that the people that need you work right hand in hand with a real estate transaction, and you're fiduciary to the buyer. Or whoever hires you, really, you're fiduciary to whoever calls you. If it's a home inspector, you're fiduciary to them, and they put you in connection with the real estate agent and the buyer once everybody's all complete in the inspection transaction. So, Matt, I hope that answered the question, but mostly what we have discovered for us is that it's better if you at least first separate it in your mind that you're going after two different clientele. And secondly, it is a good thing if you set up, two different businesses, and it's not expensive. I mean, I think we paid $20 to get a business license. And of course, you have to pay for your LLC, which is not expensive if you want a limited liability corporation. But as professionals doing pool inspections, most of the general knowledge for doing a pool inspection is learned by doing pool service work over years or pool building over years. And you can use pool inspecting as a kind of feather in your cap, that you use your general knowledge for doing the pool inspection. So I'm kind of mixing a lot of information in there, Matt, with your question. So I hope I at least hit some of it.
No, yeah, I think it's good information too, and it all flows together.
It
There's a
does.
lot, yeah, and there's a lot, to make that decision. Do I separate my company, make a different pool inspection business, or do I keep them combined? Like a lot of that information plays into that. So I think that was right in line with
Yeah.
everything.
And you wind up marketing two different ways.
Yeah, very true, actually.
Previous question. So you market for a pool service company different than you market for a pool inspection company. You're dealing with two different clientele. Yeah.
Yeah, with two different business goals too. So
Yeah, you are.
that's so true. Yeah, just a reminder for everybody, if you have questions, if you go to the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat bubble. If you click on that, there's a link in there where you can submit those questions. We'll be collecting those until 11:30. I'll be answering those live on the air, for anybody that may have those questions. So yeah, but no, that is incredible information there. I think all of that is extremely pertinent to people making that decision of like, hey, do I separate these companies? Do I keep them the same, or is that something I'm looking to do in the future? That's something that is inevitable, is that pool inspections can take up a lot of time, especially if we're not optimizing time at the job site as much as possible. So talk us through a little bit about the Pro Pool Inspectors app and the way it's helped you speed up time poolside without sacrificing your quality reporting.
Okay, there's a long answer here, but I'll try to keep it short. So I'll just do this by telling the story. When I first did my first pool inspection, and it's kind of funny because I still have it, and I look back at it from time to time to see kind of what we used to do to what we do now. Most of the people who own our app that we have, don't have to work through the grief that I did when I first started. So when I got my first inspection and the home inspector said, don't give the report to me, give it to the real estate agent, he didn't see what I had done was I basically went out to the pool, took a whole bunch of pictures of the pool. I was going over everything and looking at the pool surface, the pool decking, the slide, the diving board, the lights, the pump equipment, the filter equipment, the automation panel, the fencing. And I was making all these pictures. Well, it took me like 4 hours to make this pool inspection report by cropping and pasting photos and shadowing them and creating a text box and shadowing it and trying to figure out the right color for that shadow box and the right color for the font and everything. And every time I would get a pool inspection, I would hate it because it would take me 4 hours to do the report. And so I knew there needed to be a different way of doing these things. So I just combed the internet. I never was looking into developing an app. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know who to call to develop anything. And so I just combed the internet, and everything I bought or looked at, whether it be a software package or something that had an amalgamation of multiple inspection forms on it, just was nothing that we dealt with in the pool industry. And most of them were stuff you just had to build outright. And I was already doing that with Excel. And so fortunately, I had a friend who owned a home inspection software, and we got into working with him. And lo and behold, it came to the point where we needed to split. And I said, listen, we've got to make this available to the industry if people want it. And I went to a training show in Vegas where I was doing training on pool inspecting. And I made a statement on the Jumbotron. I was pointing with my laser on the Jumbotron. I said, right here, diving boards, are dangerous. Know the codes in your area about diving boards. And it was a little hour and a half training. We now have a 2-hour training class. I'm sorry, a 2-day training class that you can take with us remote or come in person. And that 1.5-hour training class was just me giving just highlights of different things about inspecting. And when I said, hey, everybody, y'all have fun in Vegas. I'm going back to Nashville. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. 50 people rushed up to the stage and they said, how do I get your app? And they didn't ask me like, tell me again about how heaters are supposed to be mounted, or, how many lumens per square foot a light is supposed to have. They didn't ask any technical questions like that. And it just made us realize as a company that there was a need by other pool professionals out there that they were doing something like us. And one of the ladies in the crowd that was there at the show, she said, well, I'm using Excel right now and I'm having to cut and paste photos. And I said, ma'am, I know exactly where you are. I was there, several years ago, and I know that grief. And quite honestly, I said, I don't sell apps. I said, we just have one for our company, and I recommend you build one for your company. And we just realized right then and there, after talking to that group of people, it was our first, 50 people of, of interviewing, or discovery, you might say it that way, of knowing that we needed to possibly even look at, producing something, because we at least had 50 people that wanted something, and we didn't know what we were doing, and we got into it. And now, years later, this has been 10 years of my life developing a product that would be helpful, so that the person who's doing the pool inspection can go out using their mobile device. They can, let's see if I can get it, taking photos and making comments, making it customizable, moving things around the way they would like it, and pretty much just basically creating a nice looking, professional looking inspection report that they wouldn't have to spend hours and hours and hours building. But we made it in such a way, it's come so far that we've even made it where the app will work offline in an area where you're out in West Bumblestink nowhere, where they've never heard of the internet. And you can use your app product, and you can also email the finished report from the field. So those were things in COVID. When COVID hit, we went into a round room and we redeveloped everything and said, the team said, Dennis, what do you want on the app? And I said, really, I just want to be able to send the report from the field. I'm tired of sending it back to the computer and then having to go back home and spending hours on the computer, revamping the report and, dotting I's and crossing T's. And I spend more time, trying to create the report perfect, than I do actually getting the reports done. So that's kind of where the app development and what the app does for the user helps. So hope I answered that question.
No, that's awesome, and that's a big thing, I think, in the pool world, especially in the pool inspection world, is like, how can I save time and how can I do that without sacrificing quality? The more time that you have, the more you can put that to use and be efficient with that. And
Yeah.
you said earlier that you're spending more time writing the report, so that's a problem point right there, right? Because
Yeah.
the important thing is doing the pool inspections and being able to do that efficiently, and I think that's what's really led you down the journey of creating this software and making it that way, which is
Yeah.
awesome. Like saving time, as much time as possible. When it comes to customer journeys here at Pro Pool Inspectors, we see a lot of clients, even up to about 50%, asking for quotes on things that we're finding at pool inspections. And I think this just goes perfectly into what we were just talking about with the app and how it can save an inspector some time. Quoting can take up a lot of time, right? And so talk
Yeah.
with us a little bit about how is quoting a necessary part of a pool inspection business, and what are some things that someone can do right now to improve their quoting process, both with the quality and as well with efficiency. That's something, like, it can take a lot of time, and I think a lot of people can feel a little bit in the dark of, like, how do I know how to quote efficiently? So do you have any tips and tricks for people out there thinking about, hey, I want to save time, I want to do this well, and I want to feel like I'm doing this from a good baseline and not just kind of coming up with things on the fly?
Okay. So this is a different answer for different people who do inspecting versus people who run a pool service company. I'm thankful today that we have Gus Vega with PSS on a pool service software right here. We use PSS to do all of our quoting. So it's been a fantastic platform for us. It's easy because they make it so that you can create a catalog of repairs, or sorry, a catalog of items that you commonly see on a pool inspection. And when you go to that catalog, you just click on the items that you want, and it puts them over into a quote, which is super cool, because now all you got to do is put your customer's name, however you want to customize it, and they make it super customizable. But if you're in a area where you're like not a pool service, you're not a pool service company, we highly recommend as pool inspectors that you make that available to your clients, because you need to have some type of contact for the real estate agent, the buyer, whoever you're working with when you're dealing with a pool inspection. Now, I'm talking a lot about real estate transaction because that's what we deal with mostly. If you do pool inspection for some other reason, whether it be commercial, whether it be construction. If you do a construction inspection, we often get those calls and we're involved in them, but the majority of the time we are doing a real estate transaction, and that real estate transaction is going to have a finale to it where they're doing, they're kind of doing, trying to find out where the pool repairs are going to fit into the negotiation of the real estate transaction. And so they'll call you and say, hey, can you give us a quote on this? And it can be an open-ended quote where you say, this could change if by the time you move into the home, because they may not move into it for a year. You don't know. Well, by that time, the market has changed and the pricing model. I mean, we see that in Nashville. They seem to change like once a month here. Every time, we turn around looking for a new price quote. But that kind of stuff is really valuable to the professional look of the pool inspector, because they become the one-stop shop for the real estate agent, the buyer, and they just really want you to hold their hand all the way through the transaction. And so you become that person that they trust. And so in the quoting process, if you're the pool service company, and you already have a software that doesn't have quoting capabilities, I highly recommend you get one that does. It makes it so much easier. It makes it so much quicker. And the pool inspection doesn't have to take you like all day to do a pool inspection. Normally our pool inspection is an hour if we go out in the field and do the inspection with the app. And then writing the quote really is really quick. I mean, we have one of our ladies at the office now, when we have the pool inspection come back, we say, hey, we're working with this client. They need some numbers. Can you put them a quote together real quick? And she just goes in PSS and goes click, 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 click. And she's looking at the pool inspection report. And if you're a Hayward, Jandy, Pentair lover, you can make your software, if it is PSS, you can make your software like all of those name brand products. And so it's really important to be able to have quoting done really simply. Because if you're running a pool service business and you're the main person and you're the inspector, you will need that quick turnaround capability. And our pool app does the reporting, and then our PSS does the quoting. And so it makes it really simple, man, really simple. So I hope that answers that question. Matt, you still with us?
All right, yes, sorry, my camera took just a second there. I think that's awesome. Yeah, so I mean, what we're hearing here is that time. That's the most precious commodity when it comes to being a business owner, and even just a person in general. So, what are some essentials that will make a pool inspection faster and simultaneously higher quality?
Ask that question one more time.
Yeah, what are some essentials that will make a pool inspector faster? Like, how can we be faster poolside with dealing with clients, with just doing the inspection in general, without sacrificing the quality?
Well, Sean is on this meeting here too, and he'll probably testify to this. One of the things that you have to do as an inspector is, if you're out in the field, when we get a call, the agent will say, hey, is it okay if we all show up and be a part of the pool inspection? We have to kind of let them down gently and very professionally, I might add. We have to say, well, and this is kind of our pat answer. We say, well, pool inspection day is not pool school day. We're not there to teach you how to operate the pool. We're there to find all the findings and then report them to you and what could possibly be done to remedy the issue. All right. And most of the time, if you're like us, we've had days where we've done 6 a day. And just our average is 3 to 4. So if you're out doing that many inspections and you're running a pool service business, you don't have time to chit chat by the pool, and shoot the breeze and say, wow, this is a really pretty pool, man, who built this? Can you believe back in the day, and go on and on with some kind of tangent. You're there to get the job done. And one of the things that we often try to do very professionally is at the pool side, say, hey, look, it's great to meet you. This report, if you're running and gunning, we say, listen, we have 3 or 4 of these today. And quite honestly, when I get the report out to you, I'll be available to consult on that and to talk to you a little bit more about my findings. And if you want to hold that information while you're at the job site, you can just hit a couple of highlights and say, hey, I found a couple of major things, maybe one or two of an expensive item that might be on the job site that you want to report on and say, hey, this was an issue. We will get you a remedy on the pool inspection report. But expediting your pool inspection that way has been one of our number one helps when we figured out, hey, we can't stand by the pool side and talk to this customer. Now, if you don't have anything going on and the day is a slow day and you're like, I only have one inspection today and maybe a pump seal change out, then yeah, spending that quality time by the job site, kind of massaging that relationship with the buyer or the real estate agent so that the real estate agent, uses you more and more or refers you more and more. Even with the home inspector, if one of the things that we try to do if we have time is at the pool inspection, if the home inspector has ordered the pool inspection for the real estate agent or the buyer, most of the time, the buyer and the real estate agent will not be there, but sometimes the home inspector will be there. And so about 50% of the time, 75% of the time, it'll just be us and the home inspector on the job site. And so as a courtesy to the home inspector, because we do a lot with home inspectors, we cater to them. We give them a discount even on the inspection that we normally don't give to the real estate agent or the buyer. So we will go to the home inspector, who most of the time doesn't want to know, doesn't know any information about the pool or care to report on the pool, and he hired you for that reason. You want to just say, hey, one big item we noticed, the heater was leaking, it's broken, it's going to be about a $6,000 repair. And we say that just as an encouragement to you. If the buyer shows up or the real estate agent shows up and we're gone and they are asking you about the pool, you can mention one thing. Well, he said, well, he found one big flaw, and that was the heater, and it needed to be replaced. So that kind of stuff is how we expedite the inspection. Let's see. We try, if you're doing a pool inspection and the report has not gone out yet, or the customer has not paid, let's say, for instance, you're at a pool inspection and your office says, hey, don't send the report out until this customer pays, or they let you know before you go that the customer hadn't paid. That's the time you want to keep that information kind of under hat, just telling the customer, hey, could you possibly, let's make sure that what we normally do is we'll give them some highlights, but we won't give them everything. And we'll just say, hey, one of the big bullet points here, the heater's broken, but we also have a list of other things. If they say, hey, well, what are those other things? Say, hey, it's going to be in the pool inspection report. And if you'll go on the office website and pay for that, or wherever you choose to make that happen, sometimes they'll bring you a check in the field. And, you have to decide, do I want to spend this time right here, this quality time, because I've really got 3 of these today and I've got to write the report, or, just depending on the way you do it, depending on the way you use the app or how you write your report or whatever you do for quoting, that kind of stuff is handy before you ever go to the pool inspection, because you're either trying to build your pool inspection company or you're trying to maintain a growing pool inspection company so that, the quality of the inspection doesn't suffer because you're getting behind all the time with the due diligence of inspecting and keeping the relationships going. So I hope that helped, Matt.
Yeah, that was great. That was so great. So yeah, so that wraps up the middle section of our webinar here. Now we're going to move into a Q&A time. Just to do a little bit of a recap, we talked about the importance of some steps we think are some valid things to talk about in terms of how to run a successful pool inspection business. We dived into advertising. How can that be a pertinent part of the pool inspection journey? How can I do that organically in face-to-face areas? We then talked about the benefits of a separated company versus maybe having a dedicated employee that's part of another company. How do we streamline the process? How can the Pro Pool Inspectors app help us do that? What are some good quoting softwares that we can use? What are some things that we can do to speed up and help quoting? And how can we expedite our time at the pool inspection itself, being poolside? So now it's time for Dennis to answer your questions. We'll spend the remaining time diving into the specifics that you're asking for. Please keep your camera switched off and microphones muted. During the webinar, we've collected those questions that were submitted to that link, and Dennis is going to answer those live. And Dennis, I'm really going to challenge you here. This is going to be really hard. You're going to have like a minute and 30 seconds to dive into these questions.
Wow.
So I know, the other things we talked about, that's not even enough time for what we chatted about. So this will be a bit of a challenge, but we've got a couple questions here and want to make sure we have time for all of those. So the first one, we've got a question submitted asking, what is the most important first step to getting started opening a pool inspection business?
Knowing there's a need.
Mm.
And if you're in a major metropolitan area, I can tell you for a fact there's a need. Real estate is rampant all over the country right now. If you're in a small town, I would say one of the first things I would do was go talk to any and all real estate agents in your area. Just go up to them and say, hey, I'm in the pool industry. I do pool inspections. Is there a need for that in my local market? I guarantee you they're probably going to say yes. Yes, we could use somebody like that in this area, whether it be a small town or a big town. So first thing I would do, shoe leather. I'd go knock on the door real quick, make a call, and just say, hey, I'm in the area. Can I stop by? Something like that.
That's good. I think that I totally agree with you. I think, in plugging into the market, seeing like, hey, is there a need? And then what is that need? Like, is this need big enough to separate my company? Like, is there enough business out there? How many like maybe even looking into how many pools are in your area, doing some data on properties and stuff like that. And that can be a good first step. That's awesome. Yeah. We've got another question here. Somebody asking, what are the best places to get good insurance for doing pool inspection businesses?
That's a really good question. The insurances that we talk about in the class, of course, general liability is but general liability is going to cover if you damage something. What we mainly stress is E&O insurance, errors and omissions. Errors and omissions is kind of like malpractice insurance. As a medical professional, we have to have this. It's not very expensive. It just depends on how much you do, how many inspections you do. Or it's kind of connected to the revenue stream. We do a lot. So we do over 500 inspections a year in our area here in Nashville. And our E&O insurance is $3,000 a year. And we have a company that we recommend just because we work with them locally and they're willing to work with other people in other states. So we tell students about them. You don't have to use them if you find a better deal, but shop E&O insurance. Errors and omissions is what it stands for. It's kind of the insurance that you'll need in this part of the business. Okay. Versus pool service work. If you damage a pump, your general liability will pay for that.
That's a good question. Another one here is super good question, and I'm excited to hear your answer on this. Somebody's asking, how do I determine the right pricing structure for my pool inspection business?
That's kind of all over the board. We get that a lot. We give our pricing, but our pricing has been based on years of experience of like what has happened to us as we've grown. That story I told in the beginning, and I took that report up to that agent. She said, how much do I owe you? And I just said, $50, And so we're now $395 to do a pool inspection. And that's just the pool. But we're in Nashville, Tennessee. And, the real estate market is off the charts here. Like it's just booming everywhere. I have talked to guys all over the country, and they're all different pricing from the reasons that they feel like that they want to price the structure that they want to price at. Some guys are at $800 for an inspection. Some guys are at $250. But the people that charge $25 for a pool inspection, I tell them you're really doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing a disservice to the professionalism that is pool inspecting, because it is a true or higher level in the pool industry. You are a professional at an end where you are elevated above a little bit more, if we want to say it that way, in your knowledge base, because you're trained, or you've done so many years of experience in the business that you now can qualify or consider yourself to be a quality pool inspector. It really comes from the school of hard knocks anyway, not getting a piece of paper from me that says you went through a class. It's really your experience as a guy or gal in the pool industry of like how good you are at doing pool knowledge. So pricing, That's kind of one of those things that we don't even tell people what to price, because I can't know everybody's market. But I can say, price it like a professional would price it. Do some market research in your area. What are home inspectors charging for home inspections? They usually price it out per square foot. If you wanted to price the pool out per square foot, I mean, we do that when we measure a pool anyway. We're measuring the length and width. So if you want to price it that way, go for it. It's a little complicated, but we have seen, and I'll end it this way. We have seen a model out there in the industry, on the internet, where people are pricing like a la carte. They're like $100 for the pool inspection, and then $50 if you want the diving board inspected, and $50 extra if you want the slide inspected, and then $50 extra if you want the pump inspected. We just feel like at our company that's a little over the top in tracking. So we just have a flat rate, and we charge a flat rate to inspect the pool. We now have a flat rate to inspect the spa, the hot tub, the catch basin. I mean, some of these catch basins in Nashville, they're like a small pool. They can be 10,000, 15,000 gallons. And we're just like, they're set on their own equipment. So pricing wise, that's what we do. And we also do leak tests. We didn't talk about that, but we have a leak computer. We don't dive the pool and get in. We put a leak computer on it, and we charge per body of water. So we charge $200 for every body of water that we leak test. So $200 to do the pool, $200 to do the spa. And that's kind of our pricing model. And, knock on wood, I'm sitting at a wood table, we hadn't had much pushback in Nashville. And I guarantee you, when you set it for your area as the professional, as long as you don't price yourself completely out of the market, you'll find it relatively kind of an area where people expect to pay a premium dollar for the information. So
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I think you're right on the nose. I would agree. Like, it's per market, it's per area, and it's also, you have to figure out how are you going to do that pricing. I love that good tip of like even considering like, how are home inspectors doing this? Could I do this per square foot? Is there a different way I can price this out? I love that.
Every home inspector in Nashville is not the same price.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. And it
and you
depends
don't want to Walmart it either. I mean,
yeah,
if there's another inspector in your area, maybe, I mean, you might want to compete, but if they're super low and ruining the market, no, I wouldn't compete. I wouldn't compete with low dollar pricing, as far as my professional opinion.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've got a couple more here for you. So somebody else has asked, are there any necessary insurances and certifications needed in the pool inspection world? So we talked a little bit earlier about, what are the best places to get some good insurance, but are there ones that are required to start doing pool inspections, like certifications or insurances?
You're asking a legal question, and I'm not a lawyer. I think my attorney would say absolutely. Whenever you can protect yourself, protect yourself. There are no mandated insurances for anything except like workman's comp and things like that. I think you have to abide by your state policies, whatever they might be.
That's awesome. Yeah. So somebody else here has sent another question in, and they have asked us, what is the most cost-efficient way to get into the business?
I mean, the inspection business is $0 entryway. If you want to go for it and create Excel documents like I did, knock yourself out. I mean, it'll probably cost you an aneurysm, I can say for me, it is an ulcer doing the reporting process. If you don't want to spend, $29 on the app to go out in the field and use that app, by all means, $0. But if you want to completely get to elevating your pool business, I'll say some of the tools that we do have, we already owned from the pool service company side. So, I mean, to me, it wasn't $0, but it is kind of included. A voltmeter, that's always helpful. A pool leak computer. We use Anderson Manufacturers Leakalizer. We use that. That will set you back, a couple of thousand if you want to add that as an add-on. But for us, when we started using it, it paid for itself in a really quick amount of time. So those kind of tools are beneficial to growing your service of pool inspecting, if you want to say it that way, because you get to offer so many more things when you're out there doing the inspection that you kind of become this go-to model when they know, oh, wow, I see John Hughes on here. They say, John, man, you guys offer leak testing, to whereas, John Doe over there, man, his report is on pencil and paper. You look so much more professional. And I know John uses the app, so, he can give a more professional report and offer more services. So that's what I would say as far as tools go. Invest in the ones that like help you. And in the class, we even teach, and we don't even use this, but there's like a device out there that's like a couple $100 called the Shock Alert. You can throw that in the pool, drag it around, and it'll tell you if there's voltage in the pool. So you can even sell that separately. I mean, we've never thought and put our brain power to that, but it just depends on you as the inspector, how you would like to cater your services to the market that you found yourself in.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've hit time here, but I'll squeeze one more question in here. And if we didn't get to your questions, we will definitely reach out to you. And also feel free to always reach out to us. But the last question here, squeeze in the last 30 seconds here, is somebody asked, how do I build a customer base for pool inspections if I have no leads or if I'm not in the business yet?
How do you grow it?
Like, how do you find like customers out there that are looking for those inspections? Like if you don't have it plugged into the market yet?
I would say, like we've already started talking about, primarily what we did day one was finding that there was a need. Like I got the call to go out. I was a pool service guy. I'd been in the industry a long time. So I knew like a lot of people. And Nashville's a big city, and you rub elbows with a lot of people when you're doing a pool service job. But, I'd rubbed elbows with a home inspector, I think in church, or on the job site or something like that. And they called and said, hey, just come look at this pool. And then when I took the report to the real estate agent, I found out that there was a need. So my need in opening up the industry to the service side of what I was doing was I began to find out that, hey, there is a need. So I went and started calling on the real estate agencies in Nashville, and guys and gals, I'm gonna tell you, if you live in a big metropolitan area, that's a full-time job trying to find all the agencies in town, because there's thousands and thousands of real estate agents. And not only that, but they change from one day to the next. Like they get in and they get out, and you don't want to mess around with all of them. You want to work with those $1 million producers and those movers and shakers in the real estate world. So I would say go online and look up $1 million producers in your area, $1 million real estate producers in your area, and see what pops up, and then make a call on those agencies.
That's awesome. Yeah,
that'd be a good way to start.
That's great. Yeah, this has been an awesome time, and just want to thank everybody for attending the first ever Pro Pool Inspectors webinar. So this webcast will be posted to our YouTube channel for your future viewing needs. And if anybody needs anything further, never hesitate to call or email our office at any time. And to see our current training courses we've had posted, visit our website, propoolinspectors.com/training. And to see any of our other products, including our market subscriptions and app, visit our website and navigate to the sub pages for those products. We've got a plethora of different products to help you out in any part of that journey. As well, like I said earlier, if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to call our office, email us, go onto our website, even reach out. We're more than happy to help. Dennis, before we hang up here, any closing remarks that you have for us?
Well, man, I don't know if this is allowed. I don't know if we got this set on a timer, but I am available till noon here today on this webinar. If people want to stay on, I don't know if that's allowed. I don't do these a lot, so who's ever in control? If you want to stay on, I'll be willing to answer questions until I have to head on out here. But I think my brain is empty.
No, that's awesome. I think too, if anybody wants to unmute and even talk live, ask a question, anything like that, feel free to do that. That would be awesome. Dennis, we can do that until that'd be great.
Yeah, it's good to see some familiar faces here.
Yeah,
former students. And we do have a class coming up, so if any of you haven't considered taking pool inspection classes before, they're getting better and better. I see John here. He was one of our first one of our first training rats that we put through, and tried it out on him, and we've revamped it for multiple classes since. We now have a remote class that you can jump on, not next week, but the week after. Next week we have an in-person training class. The last week of June we have an in-person training class. July, we have another remote class. So if you want to take it with in your pajamas from your home, we've got remote training, and we're putting together on demand. So we're doing that as well. So that'll be out there, and certifications to boot. And we're trying to get everybody in the industry that wants more professional training, who are pool service people. We're bringing all of that knowledge, and we're using codes. We're doing a lot more with codes. ISPSC codes are changing a lot, so we're making sure that the codes are known by the things that we're talking about inspecting. That kind of stuff is important. It's important to know as an inspector. And so we try to help people get there with their training. And there's just only so much you can do in one class. And it's a 2-day training class. Both of them, both the remote and in-person, are 2-day training. And a lot of it has to be something that you already know significant ins and outs of the industry. So when you come to our training class, we don't stop to talk about this is a pump and this is a filter and this is an actuator. We expect you to have some general working knowledge. And our new prerequisite is that you have to have at least 2 years of experience in the pool industry. So you have to have some background in the industry first, or you can set for the CST. And right now we're creating a new class that you can actually set for. We're developing a new class that is going to be a prerequisite offered through us. And so that's going to be the CRO, the Certified Residential Operator. And we're going to have that as a prerequisite. So hopefully that'll help people who are wanting to be inspectors. But inspecting is so vast. I mean, you can get a construction inspection, which we highly recommend if you have a vast knowledge of building industry. Commercial inspecting is coming on strong. If you want to get in the commercial world, that's a kind of a neat place to be right now. There's some different things changing in the industry. With even the WU and the PHTA, they're doing some new training. Superintendent models are coming out. It's a fast growing field, pool inspecting. And so we're even discussing right now, the class that's being offered is really kind of an introductory level to pool inspecting. And we're even consulting right now about having an advanced class and a mastery class, where pool inspecting is going to be even more elevated in the knowledge realm, because we do see states and municipalities, some cities, they're beginning to move and shake, where the city of Austin just passed a new city law that says you have to have a CBP from the PHTA in order to do a pool inspection. So we're seeing certifications probably coming down the pipe. All right, we got another question?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we do have some more questions submitted to our box, but before I ask that one, just want to pause for a minute. Does anybody want to ask a question, like unmute or anything like that?
Anybody got anything going on that they want to share?
Yeah,
we use this time as like saying, hey, has anybody seen anything weird out there in pool inspecting? We did have a case recently where a pool inspection failed. And the reason it failed was because, and this was from the city codes office, it failed because the automatic cover track wasn't bonded. And I don't know how many of you out there who are inspecting actually even mention that when you're doing a pool inspection. You don't actually check the bonding, but you see the electric cover and make a note on your report that says, recommend the bonding track be inspected if it's not already recommend the track be bonded if it's not already bonded, and just make a note just saying that on your report.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure
more stories. No, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Didn't mean to interrupt you there. Somebody's asked them, how can they continue to learn and develop throughout their career as a pool inspector? What are some resources they can do to continue to grow in their knowledge of the industry and pool inspection in general?
Knowledge of pool inspecting. Mostly what we're doing right here is a protocol that we developed of how to do an inspection, how we were doing an inspection. There's some things right now I can't talk about because we're getting more connected to the industry's official criteria, and I've talked with several people who have been students, and we're We're currently working on a certification that's going to be a national certification with one of the arms of the industry, one of the educational arms of the industry. So pool inspecting right now as a nuance is very new to the industry, meaning that it's only been like the past 15 years that it's even popped up as a thing that people offer. So the industry starting to recognize it as a criteria in the industry of like saying, hey, there's service companies out here that are doing inspecting, and they're trying to get their heads around what is that supposed to be as far as a protocol. And we're offering our protocol to the industry and saying, hey, this is what we do in Nashville, Tennessee. How did we come up with that protocol? And there's really two questions. The questions that came up were, one, the customer was asking, in your pool inspection, tell me everything that doesn't work about the pool. And then two, can you tell me if it leaks? So we knew we could answer question one really easily because we had enough knowledge about the industry that we could go in and tell them if things were broken, or if the pool was cracked, or the liner was torn and it needed to be replaced, or the diving board was mounted in the shallow end of the pool and that's wrong, or the diving board was falling apart and the hardware was rusty. So we could tell them those things, but we couldn't tell them if it leaked without diving the pool. So when we discovered that there are leak computers out there, and a lot of this is waiting for the industry to catch up, the leak computer made it very easy for us because I'm a diver, I'm a certified diver in the industry, and just have my training in diving, open water diving, and I was doing leak detection. Well, the computer makes it so that we don't have to get in the pool. There'll be some out there that disagree with me on this because they feel like that part of the process of doing an inspection means that you got to get in the pool and tear it apart. We don't teach that here. We teach less liability over more liability. We don't want to be any more liable than we have to. And the inspection protocol is being able to tell the customer, hey, is it leaking? Yes, it is, or no, it's not. The computer, we err on the side of the computer. And then two, is everything working? Well, we know that because we tell them in the beginning that the only thing we're offering you is everything that's above ground. We're not inspecting anything underground unless you order the leak computer test, and the leak computer will tell me if it's leaking underground, because that's a dynamic part of the testing versus a static part of the testing. So that kind of stuff is what, as far as training goes, training is right now being completely developed, and it's being completely and for right now, most of the people out there that are inspecting are just winging it. They're going for it. And their protocol for inspecting, I'll tell you, in the home inspection world, I worked as an educational assistant for the educational standards team for ASHI, the American Society of Home Inspectors. And I went into the first meeting there with them, and their understanding of pool inspecting was to tell people about the downspouts. And the home inspectors that I was meeting across the country were saying their average pool inspection at a home inspection was basically just telling the customer that the pool had water and that the equipment pad was over there, that it existed. Yes, it had a pump. Yes, there was a filter. No conditioning, reporting, just I saw it. It looked like it had water the right way, and they would charge $100, or $50 or something like that. So knowledge of the industry of pool inspecting, where you're finding it right now, if you go to the PHTA, they have a CPI, but that CPI is all commercial information. So really the deployment of the certified pool inspections that we're doing here in Nashville is one of the closest things to what the industry is beginning to adopt as a normalcy, because it involves a residential pool. And with us, it's connected to a real estate transaction. And most of the time, commercial properties aren't involved in a real estate transaction. They're part of local municipalities that are having things go wrong, and they need an inspector over there. So that kind of stuff happens. But real estate transactions are rampant in the United States right now. And having a quality inspector knowing what to look for is kind of crucial. But if you've been in the business a long time, and I would say well over 5 or 10 years in the business, you've been doing this or stepped out and stepping back in or whatever, and want to use your knowledge, I mean, you probably already know what needs to be done. You just need kind of a protocol to move forward with. And that's where the app comes in. The app is really like a step-by-step of things to look for. And we've put narratives in there that we've vetted through the ISPSC manual, through the ICC and the National Electrical Codes. So we put all that information in the app so that when you check a box, it kind of protects you against things you might not have known about codes. So I would say if you want to get familiar with codes, jump on the ICC.com. I think it's icc.ispsc.com, where you can find a copy of the ISPSC code. It's a read only, so you can't download it, but you can save a file to your folder. And the chapter 3 and chapter 8 are big chapters for those of us that are doing residential pool inspections, because chapter 3 is general compliance, which also rolls over into chapter 8, which is residential pool, information. And those are the two big sections that you would want to be familiar with. And you'd be surprised at how much you already know if you've been in the business a long time. If you've been in the industry out there, just moving and shaking, doing pools every day. So
I think that's great. I think like knowledge of the industry, that's going to be a huge thing. And then like knowing those codes, like staying familiar with those, that's awesome.
yeah.
Well, we're going to call it here. I think something we'll say here at Pro Pool Inspectors, like we always want to be available to help you guys out with anything you may need, whether that's just to call us, get a question, talk a little bit about our products or services, or even just talk about a specificity in the pool industry. And I think Dennis showed that a little bit about his character here, about being willing to stay late. And thank you for that. Stay late and talk and answer another question. So, which is awesome. If we didn't get to your question, or if you have more questions, we'll be sure to reach out to you and answer those questions via email. So just keep an eye on your inbox. We plan to have probably about 2 of these a year. So maybe in the third or fourth quarter, coming back and having another live webinar for free where we just give back. We want to help you guys out. We'll probably, for our next webinar, send out a box early for you guys to submit a topic even. You can help us pick the topic next that you want us to talk about. The thing that we want to do with these webinars is really just serve you guys and be available for the questions that you may have. So this webinar was developed by a lot of questions we were getting from a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of inquiries, but we're going to really plug our market and our clients and see what you guys need for our next webinar, and be sure that we're stepping out to answer those questions pertinently and effectively. So thank you guys again for viewing. Dennis, thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. Really enjoyed getting to hear you speak, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys.